There's a moment, one specific moment from 1982 that I've replayed in my mind maybe 10,000 times. I'm standing in the hallway of a small accounting firm in Chicago, and my supervisor is asking if I want to join a new project, something experimental, risky, but potentially transformative. And I say, I'll pass. 2 words that would echo for decades. If you're watching this, you probably have your own moment, your own if only. Maybe it was a conversation you didn't have, a dream you postponed, a person you let slip away. We carry these moments like stones in our pockets, invisible to everyone else, but we feel their weight every single day. But what if I told you that the story you've been telling yourself about that regret isn't the only story you could tell? What if you could rewrite it? Not by changing what happened, but by changing what it means. I spent my 40s convinced I'd made the wrong choice. That 1982 moment, the project I turned down became hugely successful. The colleagues who said yes got promotions, visibility, opportunities I could only watch from the sidelines. And every time I heard about their achievements, that moment played again in my mind like a scratched record. Here's what we don't talk about enough. Regret isn't just a feeling, it's a pattern, a groove we wear deeper every time we revisit it. Psychologists call it rumination, the endless mental replay of what went wrong. And the American culture we grew up in? It doesn't help. We're raised on stories of the self-made person, the go-getter who seizes every opportunity. So when we don't seize one, when we hesitate or choose safety, we feel like we've failed some fundamental test of character. I remember sitting at Thanksgiving dinner in 1987, 5 years after that hallway moment, and my sister-in-law was talking about taking risks in her career. My husband squeezed my hand under the table. He knew I was back in that hallway again, reliving the choice, cataloging all the ways my life would be different if I just said yes. But here's the misconception we all share. We think regret is a verdict, a final judgment on who we are. We see it as this permanent stain on our past, proof that we weren't brave enough, smart enough, decisive enough. We freeze it in time and let it define us. What if that's wrong? What if regret isn't a verdict at all, but a doorway? It took me until my early 60s to actually do this, to stop just feeling bad about that moment and start examining it. Really examining it. I had to choose which regret to focus on because, Lord knows, I had a collection. But that 1982 hallway moment kept coming back strongest. So I decided, this one. This is the one I'm going to understand. I started with what I call the what-if exercise, not the fantasy version, not imagining myself as CEO or living in a mansion, but the real, immediate ripple effects. If I'd said yes that day, what would have happened the next day? The next week? I would have had to work late 3 nights a week. My daughter was 7 then, just starting soccer. I would have missed games. My marriage was already strained. My husband was working nights as a paramedic, and our schedules barely overlapped. When I mapped it out honestly, something shifted. I saw that the decision wasn't made in a vacuum. It was made by a 32-year-old woman who was exhausted, who was trying to hold her family together, who'd already missed her son's school concert the month before because of overtime. There I was in that hallway, and my supervisor, a woman who went home to a husband who handled everything domestic, whose kids were already in college, was asking me to bet on an uncertain project when I could barely keep my head above water with the certainty I had. I wasn't a coward that day. I was a mother. I was a wife hanging on by a thread. The emotions I felt in that moment, fear, yes, but also bone-deep tiredness. The external pressures? My mortgage had just gone up. My daughter needed braces. My husband was talking about cutting his hours because he was burning out. And the information I had? My supervisor said the project was risky and experimental. In 1982, that wasn't inspiring. It was terrifying. When you deconstruct your regret like this, something remarkable happens. The decision stops being evidence of your failure and starts being understandable, human, real. This is where everything changed for me. And I mean everything. I was having coffee with an old friend. This was maybe 2 years ago, and I was telling her about that hallway moment for probably the 100th time. But this time, she stopped me. She said, "What did you do instead? In all these years of wishing you'd said yes, what did you actually do?" I sat there, stunned, because nobody had ever asked me that. What did I do? I went home that night in 1982 and had dinner with my family. I coached my daughter's soccer team that season. I was there when my son got his driver's license. I took a different position at the firm 2 years later, less glamorous but stable, and it let me be home for dinner 5 nights a week. My marriage survived, then strengthened. My husband and I took weekend trips to Door County, Wisconsin, reconnected, remembered why we'd chosen each other. My kids? They're in their 40s now. Both of them have told me, separately, that having a mom who was present made all the difference. My daughter coaches her own kids now. My son says he chose his career partly because he saw me prioritize family. The epiphany wasn't that I made the right choice or the wrong choice. It's that I made a choice that created a specific life, and that life has value. Deep, unrepeatable value. This is the edit. I didn't rewrite what happened. I rewrote my relationship to what happened. The regret stopped being about failure and became about trade-offs, about being human, about choosing one good thing and necessarily letting go of another. What wisdom did I gain that I wouldn't have otherwise? I learned that success isn't just vertical. It doesn't only mean climbing higher. Sometimes success is horizontal. It's showing up. It's being steady. It's the quiet pride of knowing your people felt loved. And my resilience? The fact that I can sit here at 71 and tell you this story without shame or bitterness, that came from wrestling with this regret, not from avoiding it. I built self-awareness through those years of discomfort. I learned to interrogate my own narrative, to question whether the story I was telling myself was the only story available. That's the gift hidden inside regret. Not the event itself, but what we become while we're carrying it. Now, here's where this gets practical. Because understanding old regrets is powerful, but applying that understanding to new decisions, that's transformative. Last year, my granddaughter, she's 26, called me in tears. She'd been offered a job in Seattle, great opportunity, but it meant leaving her boyfriend in Minneapolis. She was paralyzed, terrified of making the wrong choice and regretting it forever. I told her about my hallway. Then I said, let's do the epiphany edit in advance. We broke it down. Not just, should I go or stay, but what would the next week look like? The next month? What emotions were driving the decision? Fear of being alone? Excitement about the work? Pressure from her parents? What information did she actually have versus what she was assuming? We talked about the fact that either choice would involve trade-offs. Going to Seattle meant adventure and career growth, but distance and uncertainty in her relationship. Staying meant proximity to her partner, but potentially wondering what if about the job. Here's what shifted. She stopped looking for the right answer and started understanding herself as someone capable of making a choice, living with consequences and creating meaning regardless of which path she took. She went to Seattle. The relationship didn't survive the distance. But 6 months later, she called me and said, "Grandma, I'm not happy it ended, but I'm not destroyed either. I made a choice. I'm living it. I'm learning from it." That's what the Epiphany Edit teaches us. We can build decision-making muscles. We can train ourselves to pause before reacting, to consider alternatives, to understand our own motivations. We move from being people who are tossed around by circumstances to people who respond thoughtfully, intentionally. At our age, we've made thousands of decisions. We've lived with countless consequences. That's not a burden. That's a resource. We know that life continues after hard choices. We know that regret doesn't have to be the end of the story. Every time you face a fork in the road now, you can ask, what will I learn from this, regardless of outcome? How will this decision reflect my values right now? What story do I want to be able to tell about this moment when I'm looking back? I'm going to tell you the truth about that hallway moment. Something I've never said out loud, even to my husband. Part of me still wishes I'd said yes. Part of me still wonders who I could have become if I'd taken that risk. And you know what? That's okay. That's human. The epiphany isn't that regret disappears. It's that regret stops running the show. I can hold both truths now. I wish things had been different, and I'm grateful for what was. I carry the ache of roads not taken, and I celebrate the road I walked. Both things are real. Both things are true. This is what we earn with age, with reflection, with the willingness to face our old stories without flinching. We become spacious enough to hold contradiction. We become wise enough to know that life isn't simple, choices aren't clean, and meaning isn't found. It's made. So here's what I want to leave you with. You have your moment, your hallway, your fork in the road, your if only. You've carried it for years, maybe decades. It's shaped how you see yourself, how you move through the world. But you're also still here, still breathing, still thinking, still capable of rewriting the story you tell yourself about that moment. Not by denying what happened, not by pretending it doesn't hurt, but by asking new questions, by deconstructing the decision point, by finding the wisdom you gained, the strength you built, the person you became while carrying that weight. You are the author of your ongoing narrative. The past chapters can't be erased, but they can be understood differently. And the chapters you're writing now, they're still being formed by the choices you make today. Before we finish, if this resonated with you, I'd be grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who might need to hear this today.